Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We're back on the Dr. Daliah Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I woke up this morning and I get an alert from my credit card saying we paid your $3,300 balance in full. What? First of all, where did you take the money from to pay that balance? And I don't have a $3,300 balance on my credit card. Discover's like, oh, yay, look at us. Yay us, pat us on the back. Well done. I called the flipping phone. So I take a look at this, and then I try to log on. And something about the Discover log on is it doesn't matter if my username and password is correct. It always says login credentials are incorrect. Okay, so it takes me about 45 minutes to figure out how to log back in, because otherwise you don't get paper statements anymore. In the olden days, you would go to the table or desk where you had all the mail. You would look in the mail. You would maybe organize your paper statements. Now just everything is all loosey-goosey because it's all electronic. So it turns out I had a balance of $3,339.59. I'm like, what the hell? So my first thought is somebody's stealing. Somebody has my credit card and they're stealing. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to, figure out all the charges on this credit card and, tell them wrong, false, that's not me. So there's Albertsons for $155.68. That was me, because Albertsons, I think I went and bought dinner. By the time I got all the goods that I needed to cook dinner, I ended up spending about $155. And I might have actually added a little bit of cookies and fruit to that. But so that one is legit. There's a $1.67 charge. Yeah, we bought a Slurpee in Platte City, Missouri, when we were driving around the Midwest. Air garage parking for $15.29. Then there's a couple bar charges because I took my nephews out. And so there's a bunch of stuff from Omaha and that I'm not worried about. Then there's another Albertsons for $110, Roberto's Taco Shop. I didn't go to Roberto's, but maybe somebody the family member went to Roberto's. It would have been nice. There's a glasses charge. Spotify keeps popping up. I'm not sure why I have a Spotify charge. There was a Belfast Irving gasoline, $5.43. Do you guys ever spend only $5.43 for gas? The only thing I could think about is maybe somebody in my family just needed $5 of gas, so they just quickly topped it off. Well, when I start to look at all these things and add it up, it's some flights, the dog Camp Bow Wow. It looks like all of this is legit. How the hell in 30 days did I spend $3,300? I guess I did. Now, okay, we got this. We'll figure this out. I can't start an OnlyFans. But the one thing I want to talk to you guys about is this concept of it adds up. We keep hearing this throughout life. Well, it added up, whether it pertained to our health, whether it pertained to traffic violations, work dings, issues with the relationships. It added up. And this is how credit cards work. This is how a lot of things work where, okay, just a little bit of an issue here, a little bit of an issue here. And today, I think the reason why I'm anxious today is because what has been adding up that's going to smack me upside the ass anytime soon. So now I think about my homeowners association. How many naughty notes have I gotten from my homeowners association? Your Christmas lights are still up and it's June. There's a weed. You have a bush that's blocking the number on your house. And I'm like, is this all going to add up? And then they're going to say you're out? My cholesterol's good. I've been, watching my metrics and things like that. But things are adding up. I mean, look at calories. I'll eat maybe a little here and a little here, a little here. And if you don't count them, it all adds up. And for those of us, I love math, but for those of us who think once we're done with math at school, we don't need math, you need math. I think math is probably one of the most important things that we take from school to regular life and to real life, because if you don't understand that things add up, the calories, the wear and tear on your liver, on your brain, your credit card. I mean, what the hell? $3,300? When the hell did I spend that? And by the way, you got to really watch the whole credit card idea. See, I don't carry cash anymore because I don't want to get mugged. So now what I do is I'm like, okay, fine. Do you, and I think maybe what was also part of that statement was I was in Maine and Boston. So I think now I'm okay with it because I think that was our vacation. We did do a family vacation. So once I realized what was on there, I breathed a little easier. But I've been waving my credit card around like it's a magic wand. Here's dinner. Here's my credit card. Me the Slurpee. Here's my credit card. And why do I do that? Because points. Discover gives you money back. You want to know how much money I got back for that? I think I only got $31 back. Maybe I need to rethink which, and I understand there's Capital One and there's other credit cards with points, but don't be spending. Don't be waving that credit card around. And I was shocked because most of my dinners are top ramen these days. I'm like, where the hell did this money come from? And it was also Father's Day and birthday. So I think I could figure out where all that money came from, but that's a crap load of money. And so what I want you guys to do is, this is your homework, all right, for the week. Look at what is adding up. And what you can't see, is it adding up? Are you killing off liver cells with the alcohol you're drinking? Are you killing off brain cells with certain drugs you're doing? Or sleep aids? Are you ticking people off and they're adding it up? Somebody's got a calculator. And I don't like the numbers they come up with. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So we have some breaking news. It looks like the Senate has passed the big, beautiful bill. Now it goes back to the House. It squeaked through the Senate. I believe it was 51-50 because J.D. Vance had to, as vice president, had to be the tiebreaker. Boy, this thing was razor thin, dental floss thin margin, and it passed. Now it goes back to the House. You know, I'm a little confused by that process. I know the House passes something, it goes to the Senate, then it goes back to the House, and then it goes to the president. But what I don't understand is the Senate could pass something, or the House could pass something that the Senate decides to go, no, we're going to change it all. Then the Senate changes it, it goes back to the House, and the House could be like, no, we're going to change what the Senate did, and then the Senate's not happy. Does the Senate go back? Sounds like the Senate's done. Once the House gets this passed, it goes to Donald Trump, President Trump's desk. President Trump wanted the deadlines. Looks like the so far Congress has met in terms of Labor Day, having a bill to put together, getting this passed by July 4th. I know it's only July 1, but they're on schedule. It's just I'm just not a fan of one big bill. I think there are so many things that need fixing that you start to wonder what got lost and what got changed. And all this time, couldn't they have done some mini bills? Like, let's build the wall back, money for border security. Let's have SNAP benefits robustly for nutrition and no junk food. I mean, there's things that we could have done and passed, I think, already, but it had to be a part of a big, beautiful bill. I'm not a fan of the name. However, I am a fan if this does give tax cuts, because the tax cuts from Trump's earlier presidency sunset. And so we need those tax cuts to still continue for middle class. We need no tax on tips. We need no tax on Social Security. That is huge. I have no flipping clue why we were taxing people's Social Security this whole time. I have a family member, her Social Security is $1,200 a month. And then paying taxes on top of that, that could barely cover what needs to be covered. So it's frightening. So anyway, apparently a lot of people are on vacation this week. Okay. So Speaker Mike Johnson of the House is getting House Republicans back from recess to target a Wednesday vote to try and meet Trump's July 4th deadline. And Trump, I don't think, is on vacation. I think he's still working. He was at the Alligator Alcatraz and all that other stuff. So I don't think he's going anywhere. So they don't have to wait on him. They just have to have the House look at what needs to be addressed. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that the bill would add roughly $3.3 trillion to the national debt over the next 10 years. Although Republicans have said this is offset by, tariffs and offset by money coming in. Trump has now started to move from IRS to ERS, bringing external revenue. So although some senators were not happy, the three who I think voted against the big, beautiful bill was Senator Rand Paul, Senator Tom Tillis, and Susan Collins of Maine. Surprisingly, Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska actually voted for the bill. Usually she and Susan Collins seem to, caucus with the Democrats on a lot of things, but she voted for it because apparently Alaska got some goodies with this, which, again, this is why I'm not a big fan of politics and all that. If the border wall has to be addressed, address the border wall. If Medicaid has to be addressed, address Medicaid. If tax on Social Security has to be addressed, address that. I don't understand why things are stalled, because we have to make sure everybody's happy and everybody gets their piece. But I guess that's just kind of what happens. So there's apparently going to be the debt ceiling is going to be raised, I guess, by $5 trillion. Provides $175 billion for border security as well as $150 billion for defense. It does raise the cap on state and local tax SALT deductions to $40,000 before reverting back to $10,000 in 5 years. Remember, I told you states like New York, California that pay a buttload of taxes. They think they're paying more taxes than the red states and other states, and so if they're paying so much in state income tax, it's so much. Their countries are almost like their states are almost like European countries. They need to have tax deductions because otherwise they're, you would think just, vote fewer taxes and, get your acts together in these states. But instead, there's going to be the SALT deduction, which I understand. In terms of the Medicaid program, there's going to be work requirements and eventually lowering provider taxes from 6% to 3.5%. So we're going to get a little bit more details. And again, I don't want to get too excited about what changes are going to happen and get, everybody's panties all up in a bunch until the House takes a look at this. But the issue we have with Medicaid is they want people who don't have kids, who aren't caretaking, don't have any medical issues, who are able-bodied, that are not working, to have a work requirement to get Medicaid. Originally, Medicaid was for those individuals where their employer insurance wasn't cutting it, or their employer insurance was too much. So Medicaid could cover those of lower income, not making enough money to also buy health insurance. Somehow it changed where a lot of people, and that it happened during the Great Recession when people were getting laid off from 09 to 15, where if you didn't have a job, you lost your health insurance, which was kind of a screw up. That I think Affordable Health Care Act should have fixed that, but it didn't. And so when people lost their job, they lost their health insurance, they had that Medicaid safety net. The problem is we have 72 or 75 million people on Medicaid. A good number of them are not with kids, not sick, able-bodied, but not working. So Medicaid is going to start introducing work requirements. And I know a lot of people are upset about that, but I even saw some doctors upset about that. And one thing, though, that we are continually flogged with in medicine is get people to work. If you have a workers' comp injury, and you'll see this, I'll see how doctors treat, because I do disability exams for the state. You see with workers' comp injury, somebody broke an arm, somebody cut off a finger, they get them back to work. Even if it's modified duty, no use of the hand, that the finger was cut off, you get time off to do your therapy, to do your medical care, but get back to work. And the reason why, and we've been beaten with this for decades, saying if the longer people stay out of work, the more disability they have, the worse their health outcome, the harder it is for them to get back into work. So in workers' comp medicine, you get them back to work same day or the next day. I think that's a little too fast, but so you have that thinking, yet you have the doctors that are sending people back to work the next day say, yeah, but Medicaid people can't go to work. I thought the longer they're out of work, the harder it is for them to, so which is it? Do we want people working, having, income, being able to get insurance, being able to, exercise, get out there, move, or do we want them staying at home? And remember, Medicaid is not Medicare. Medicare for those individuals with medical issues or seniors. Medicaid doesn't have to do with somebody's medical issues. So these are able-bodied people. So I think we do have to relook at what's happening with Medicaid, because I don't think it's safe or healthy for able-bodied people. I think like the Sarnet brothers who did the Boston Marathon bombing, Allegedly, they were getting welfare and Medicaid. And you saw the older brother. That older brother was boxing on his time off. I mean, he looked like he could do a lot. He could have been a firefighter. He could have been but barely he was getting government subsidies. Why wasn't he working? You were able-bodied. You didn't have a medical condition. And then why are we subsidizing? So taxpayers, we want to make sure that people don't lose insurance if they have it. On the other end, we want to make sure that they're not getting worse. Sitting home watching Netflix when you could be out and about and doing things, there's, and the work requirements, I think 20 hours, it's not full time. And as long as you're not, taking care. Now, I'm sure somebody, wants to get out of it. They're saying, well, I'm taking care of this person. I'm taking care of this person. But for able-bodied people, should they be home? Come on. The SNAP benefits, junk food should not be part of the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. The name says Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Supplemental nutrition, we need to give them nutrition. I like the idea of just giving the family the fish and the vegetables so they're getting it. But junk food has to be off SNAP. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one of the largest healthcare fraud scams in history has been busted. And apparently this was a multi-year investigation. I think this started back in the Biden years. And fortunately, I think it's called Operation Gold Rush, was able to find over 300 defendants and a whole network of frauds and schemes that was affecting patients, that was affecting our tax dollars, involving multiple countries, multiple doctors, nurse practitioners, pharmacists. This is, I'm really glad that they busted these guys and gals, but kind of an embarrassment for the medical community. You don't become a nurse practitioner or a doctor without having you have to have ethics. I mean, it's really difficult to get through medical school if you're a criminal. So were these people criminal from the beginning, or did they turn criminal once they got through? So I'm always kind of fascinated by that. Just like when you see these predators, when you hear of these doctors that assault their patients, how do you get through medical school? See, and maybe medical school is different these days. But, we had 36-hour shifts, and we had, as a medical student, as a third-year medical student, you had a fourth-year medical student over you, and then you had an intern, and then you had the second-year resident, then you had the third-year resident, then you might have had another senior resident, and then you had the attending, not to mention the nurses and the pharmacists and the nutrition people. I mean, you had everybody up your retroperitoneum watching what you did because they didn't want you to make a mistake. That if you were fraudulent or a bad person or somebody that shouldn't be in medicine, I mean, you got figured out pretty quickly. I don't know what the hell's been going on now. And you never, never, never defraud anybody, especially your patients. What the hell were these people thinking? So it's very interesting. Operation Gold Rush started, from what I understand, in the early months of 2023. And they were tracking, doing stings, and they exposed a $10.6 billion conspiracy. This affected millions of Medicare beneficiaries. And there was doctor impersonation. There was takeover of small. We're going to be getting more and more details. From what we understand, 19 individuals have been charged. More are expected, but they say that there have been, I think, over 300 defendants. So they said what they did was in the scheme, they purchased small, legitimate medical supply companies that were already enrolled in Medicare. According to the Economic Times, the criminals used them as shells to submit floods of fake claims for durable medical equipment, including urinary catheters and glucose monitors. Now, I know some of you who are criminally minded, you're thinking, okay, I would have never thought of that. You know, you think of something so invasive, something so medically needed, but no, you know, it's interesting. One of our family members needed a medical scooter, and it took months, as well as interviews and grilling, to ensure that the 80-plus-year-old family member wasn't lying. You know, and you see, I mean, some of these older individuals, I don't know how they live by the time the prior auth and all that gets done. So you kind of wonder how all these other companies were able to get this done when anytime I needed to order something for a patient, I mean, it wasn't quick and easy. It was, so somehow they knew how to get around the bureaucracy of it all. They acquired 30 companies across the U.S. They didn't need to build a fraud operation because they already had companies already on the good side of Medicare. They there were fraudsters from Estonia, Russia, Kazakhstan. They submitted claims for inexpensive, low-scrutiny medical items. They say in one instance, over 1 billion urinary catheters were billed to Medicare. That was far more than the U.S. could manufacture at that time. Now, you would think that would have dinged something. I mean, the FBI was like, the absurdity and brazenness of these actions are as astounding. But the fraud didn't just invent fake patients. They actually stole identities of more than 1.2 million Americans. This is according to Economic Times, buying Medicare numbers on illicit marketplaces like Craigslist and LinkedIn. And with those, they forged claims under real names, often using doctors' identities without their consent. So the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services followed this pay and chase model. Pay the claim, then investigate it. Now, I'm kind of shocked at that because I took patients on Medicare. I would see the patients. I wouldn't get paid. Medicare would deny, not pay, and then investigate. They would just deny. And then I'm like, I saw the patient. Here's the notes. Pay us, for crying out loud. You know, and it was not easy. So apparently for doctor visits, they're very, very conservative. But when it comes to equipment, they seem to be more liberal, although they're not liberal with, you know, my family members. So in early 2023, the anomalies of the catheter billing volume surged. So CMS teamed up with HHS, the FBI, the Justice Department, and then they started to take a look at this. Now, also we're being told by Fox News that the defendants allegedly misled patients into paying for and receiving medical care they did not need. DOJ Criminal Division Chief Matthew Galeotti said the defendants attempted to swindle Medicare and other taxpayer-funded private health insurance programs out of $14.6 billion. So we're finding out more and more details. Even though 29 defendants have been charged, there's over 300 defendants. And they said there was another 74 defendants, including 44 licensed medical professionals, charged across 58 cases with allegedly illegally distributing 15 million prescription pill opioids, controlled substances. So this wasn't just about urinary catheters and continuous glucose monitors. This included drugs. 5 of the defendants at a Texas pharmacy were unlawfully distributing 3 million opioid pills, including oxycodone, hydrocodone, and Soma, which is a muscle relaxer. These were later trafficked by drug dealers. On some of the fraudulent claims, diagnostic testing, medical visits, unnecessary treatments, there were kickbacks, bribes. So when a criminal does something, people think it's only going to be one act. No, they're going to divest. They're going to diversify their criminal portfolio. And I believe they even talked some patients, get this, elderly Medicare recipients into getting skin grafts known as amniotic wound allografts. Why would they do that? One of the defendants, a nurse practitioner, applied the grafts to patients even though they were medically unreasonable and unnecessary. The nurse allegedly applied them to terminally ill patients in hospice, including some who were days away from dying. So, this scheme, we're going to be hearing more and more about this. And for those of you who are involved in this, you guys are pieces of crap. You should not only be stripped of all your licenses, you should go to jail for a very, very, very long time. And every single family member and every single patient that you affected should be able to sue you civilly and get every dime out of everything you ever got to replenish what you did to them. But the problem is we have Medicare beneficiaries who say the prior auth process is so grueling. Now it's going to get even more grueling. And people are dying before they even get what they need. And this is a concern. And these people screwed this up and just added more of a timeline. And we have to do a better job. We have to figure this out. And the reason why there's these prior auths and because there is Medicare fraud. People will buy scooters and then sell them online. Or they will buy wheelchairs and sell them online. I was looking for a travel scooter and I saw some website selling them. And I'm like, where did you get that? And, you wonder who's selling you these things. So be very careful who you buy your products from. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. One of our listeners writes, Doc, I get anxiety when a celebrity such as Jason Bateman, John Cusack, Charlize Theron, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, opens their mouth about politics. They go on they get very frustrated when they see stars who they love and admire are of such a different political thinking. They go on, but I just want to talk a little bit about that. You know, it's interesting. When you see celebrities, like remember Taylor Swift endorsing Joe Biden, or no, Kamala Harris. Look, this is America, so everybody has a right to choose, and vote. This is what we fight for with democracy. But it is anxiety producing for individuals to see a star who they loved, who they spent money to see, who they follow, who they, reward in Hollywood, talking bad about them. It's one thing to say, look, this is who I want to vote for. Do your own research, like Taylor Swift did. It's another thing when these actors or actresses call you names. So if you are a little anxiety, you're not wrong about that. That does suck. Somebody who you like, somebody who you're watching, somebody who you have spent money to see, and you are financially supporting in a way, watching their movies or shows, is saying you don't have common sense, is saying you're a jerk, is saying you're an extremist, is calling you a racist, is calling you that's not easy. And you end up wanting to just avoid Hollywood, stop watching TV, stop watching movies. It used to be, all right, Marlon Brando has his political beliefs, whatever. And you would, people would, usually kind of keep that to themselves. But all of a sudden, somebody told Hollywood, look, you won't get a job unless you cloak yourself into wokedom. And with wokedom. And so that's why Rachel Ziegler of Snow White ends up ruining her career, because she feels like she needs to get on Instagram or get on TikTok and start bashing Trump, supporting Hamas and bashing Israel or whatever. And it allegedly whatever she did as it pertained to the Hamas attack. And people are like, whoa. What the hell is this? And they boycotted the movie. And so, what I want you guys to think about when you do see your favorite actor or your favorite celebrity do something like that, like look at that idiot music festival where he's screaming death to the IDF. I mean, that's some frightening stuff. Remember who you are admiring. These stars are not necessarily you or I, middle class, regular Americans. Many of these individuals grew up in La La Land. They have a lot of money. They have chefs. They're on hormones. They might be on medications to keep them skinny. They don't necessarily, did they work at Jack in the Box like I did? I know Kamala Harris pretended to have worked at McDonald's, but did they really work at Jack in the Box? Did they really try to pull multiple part-time jobs together so they could support themselves? Did they drive around in a car in southern Nevada with no air conditioning for 2 years because that's all they could afford? With a broken window because somebody tried to break in thinking I had something in my little Chevy Chevette when I didn't. So I had a broken window, no air conditioning, and I would just sweat and come to work sweaty. That's but I was grateful I could actually put money together for a used car. These people don't have the same point of view. So they're sitting on their rich perch saying, oh, people are crazy that they, want a border secure and they don't want their tax dollars going to junk food. And so you remember, these are actors. It doesn't mean that's who they are in real life. I'm a huge Brad Pitt fan. But apparently his non-Hollywood persona isn't as popular as his Hollywood persona is. His kids don't like him. Now, I love Brad Pitt. I think he's the coolest guy out there, but do I really know him personally? Why don't his kids have a relationship with him? I don't know. And so, understand that you're falling for that's what movies do. They suck you in by hoping you like the character so much, and then that character decides to then spew out politics. And they hope that by osmosis you will take it in. And Hollywood's got to stop that. And it's interesting because when you look at the most popular shows or the most popular movies, Titanic, Squid Game, Game of Thrones, they're not very political. Look at Super Bowl football. I understand politics tried to get into sports, and boy, did people reject that. But people love the Super Bowl. Why? There's no politics. Until Hollywood figures that out, they're going to keep having bombs and movies that just don't make it. Now, and they're actually insulting a lot of the individuals that they think they're trying to represent. It's not easy. What Hollywood is doing is trying to make you think you're of the minority. And you're not if you do support Trump, because Trump won. You are not in the minority. And you know what? If you are in the minority, that's not a bad thing. That's, you got to be, I don't mind having my own mind, liking something, wanting the hostages out of Israel. From a global standpoint, I am a minority and have a minority point of view to want the hostages to come home and for Hamas to never attack Israel again. If that's the minority, then I will gladly be there my whole life, because that's how I feel. And I think that's for me the right way to feel. So I know some people are a little, upset about this whole Elon Musk, Trump rift. Don't let your day or your life depend on who likes who. You could have your own compass. You don't have to agree with Trump 100%. You don't have to agree with Biden or Kamala Harris 100%. You don't have to agree with Gavin Newsom 100%. And we don't tell people that that's okay. Right now, the media and Hollywood is all about, well, you have to be on our side all the way. When people do political speeches and they say something, they want everybody to clap and cheer after every comma. You could disagree with some of the alliteration and things in that sentence. You don't have to agree with them on everything, but that's not how the media and politics want it. You're either our side or you're against us. You're either our side or them. So, remember who these people are. They're not you or I or your neighbors they have a very, very protected, unique life. They get to fly first class wherever they go. The regular rules don't apply to them. So what they have to say is not as relevant as what you and your neighbor feel. 1-877-DOC-DALI. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.